What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams with The Distance. I'm here with the Jack Johnson edition of History of the Heavyweight Division Volume 5. Jack Johnson, historically significant to boxing because he's the first black heavyweight champion of the world. But there was another championship before that, which wasn't really a world. It wasn't even recognized as a world championship. It was the world-colored heavyweight championship, which started about 15 years after the Civil War. See, what's odd to me, and I don't want to get into politics or anything, but what's odd to me is how you're in a country that's supposedly going to have equal rights, but not everybody has the same rights or has the same opportunities. And the blacks didn't have the same opportunities as the whites. And this led to and in boxing, this led to the foundation of the World Colored Heavyweight Championship, which the first winner of the championship was in 1881 fired by the name like Charles Thunderbolt Smith. I could be wrong, I think that was his name, but in 1881 he won the championship. And and then out like for years, there was numerous champions. There would be a new champion like maybe every couple of years. There's one guy that held the championship for about 8 years, from like 1888 to 1896, held championship for that long. And then in 1903, Jack Johnson won the championship. Jack Johnson was a fighter out of Galveston, Texas. About 6'1", has 74-inch reach, and pretty much is much smaller compared to a lot of the heavyweights now. Jack Johnson was probably about 185, 190 pounds, like in his prime. Other than that, Jack Johnson, fought for that championship in 1903, and defeated a fighter by the name of Denver Ed Martin, and he defended that crown for about 6 years, the colored championship, and pretty much was taking on all comers. And he knocked out Bob Fitzsimmons in 2 rounds, knocked out another fighter by the name of Charles Cutler in 1 round, had another win over another opponent, I can't remember the name. And then in 1908 he fought Tommy Burns. Tommy Burns is significant to boxing because he wasn't American. And I guess he didn't really care about this big color line, this big color barrier. That's why he gave a Jewish fighter a championship shot and gave a black fighter a championship shot. So in 1908, Jack Johnson defeated Tommy Burns by points and became the new world heavyweight champion. And if you look at the history line of a lot of former heavyweight champions, like they don't fight. Most of the time they didn't fight a year or two after they won the championship, which was odd. But Jack Johnson was already fighting 6 months after he won that championship. He won the championship in like December of 1908. He was already fighting again like May of 1909 when he fought, I'm trying to think of his name, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. I believe he fought in May of 1909, and he fought again a month afterwards. In June of 1909, he was already fighting again. So, and something else that stands out is on Jack Johnson's record. Pretty much every fight he had after he won the championship was for the heavyweight title. And back then, a lot of the heavyweight champions didn't necessarily put those championships on the line. They fought a lot of like exhibition bouts, and Jack Johnson was pretty much fighting title bouts from then on out. So that's something else that really stands out. But the thing with Jack Johnson that's historically significant was on July 4th, 1910. July 4th, 1910, he fought James J. Jeffries. James Jeffries, of course, was the heavyweight champion until like 1905, and I mentioned he retired undefeated, retired as champion, never lost the crown in the ring. So now you have Marvin Hart, Tommy Burns, now Jack Johnson, and Jack Johnson, being the first black heavyweight champion, being that he did piss off white people with the way he fought. And the fact that he dated white women, and he knew it would piss off white people, so he did it. And other than that, he mentioned, Burns and Hart weren't really champions. He was undefeated. That was his championship that they won, and he was going to get it back pretty much. And so July 4th, 1910, he fought Jack Johnson in Reno, Nevada, with about 20,000 spectators in the audience to watch this fight. And James J. Jeffries got the first loss of his career against Jack Johnson, because and really a lot of people wonder, and I actually got a message about this: would Jack Johnson in his prime defeat James J. Jeffries in his prime? That's the big question. And I may touch on this in another video, but Jack Johnson simply defeated James Jeffries on pretty much on Independence Day. And and really, I do think, looking into this, I do think that pretty much they did refer to James J. Jeffries as the Great White Hope. And and I wonder, I'm like, why is he a Great White Hope? Why can't we just have a champion, no matter what color he is, no matter what origin they're from? And that's not really the way that America thought at that time. And America was so, I guess, America at the time, until civil rights movement, just seemed to be a bit on the racist side, and I don't want to get into politics, but just that's how it seemed. And other than that, Jack Johnson, he defeated James J. Jeffries, and he didn't fight. I don't think he fought for a couple of years. He didn't fight for a couple of years. I guess there was some legal circumstances that were involved, and he didn't fight. But other than that, he went on. He started fighting again, picked up where his career left off, and then in 1915 he lost to Jess Willard. And Jack Johnson, how do I sum it all up in words? Jack Johnson was given an opportunity a lot of black athletes did not get to have, and that was contend for a world championship. If you look back in history, there are a lot of things that were started for African Americans. Like one thing that's very significant is the Negro League in baseball, where a lot of great black athletes didn't get an opportunity to shine and have a chance, playing in the majors, because everything was so segregated at the time. Boxing was segregated at the time as well, and it's not what it is now. Now we have now we have pretty much everybody that holds the heavyweight championship is European. And there's no problem with that, because I feel that the best fighters deserve to be the champions, and that wasn't the case back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, late 19th century, early 20th century. And Jack Johnson was pretty much, I think it started with Tommy Burns, because he was practically the first Canadian heavyweight champion. Pretty much that was universally recognized. Tommy Burns was the first Canadian heavyweight champion, and then after him it was Jack Johnson, African American, first fighter of African American descent, holding on to a championship. Then Jess Willard, and after Jess Willard, years later, there was Primo Carnera, and after Primo Carnera, Joe Louis, and then afterwards, now we have the Klitschko's and David Haye holding on to heavyweight championships. And you can even bring up Frank Bruno, Lennox Lewis. A lot of fighters from other countries, were able to win the heavyweight championship, because now in this era there's more opportunities for a lot of fighters. But then there's politics that gets in the way of it all as well. And if you look at boxing back then and look at boxing now, there's always been politics, and politics gets in the way in the development and possible careers of some fighters. Just like how Charles Burley was never able to break into the mainstream as much as he should have. But there was always a color line, similar to the movement in life. There was always the gun line, and you couldn't get past that certain line. But anyway, that was The Distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.